Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Saco School Board meeting for Wednesday, May 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I'd like to make note that all school board members are present with the exception of Jeff Richards this evening. Okay, item number 3 is the approval of the school board minutes dated April 24th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor?
Motion made by school board member Truman.
No, I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated April 24th, 2024.
Second.
Motion made by school board member Truman, second by school board member Preble. Any discussion on the minutes?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
No discussion except to say that I will have to abstain because I was not present for that meeting.
Certainly. Okay, roll call vote. School board member Archie?
Yes.
School board member Preble?
Yes.
School board member Roach?
Yes.
School board member Gale?
Yes.
And school board member Truman?
Yes.
And school board member Johnston abstain. Motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention. Okay, item number 4, there are no adjustments to the agenda this evening. Item number 5, there is no correspondence. Takes us now to item number 6, and that is public session. Any members of the public wishing to speak, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the school board.
Good evening, everyone. Put this. Hi again. My name is Aubrey Baum. I am at 91 Lincoln Road. Thank you for the time. Just wanted to say thank you to the board and Superintendent Ray for today's agenda item addressing student-to-teacher ratios, and any of the parents and teachers that are present today and also listening in. I think this is a very important topic that we're all passionate about and looking forward to having an outcome that benefits both the students and teachers. In the last meeting, we learned that the elementary school student-to-teacher ratios were combined, which can be confusing and misleading. So how do we create greater transparency and leverage data relative to current state? Again, I also would like to reiterate the growth in North Saco and the housing developments that are continuing to pop up. As I live in North Saco, I am acutely aware of at least 3 housing developments in my area alone that are single-family homes. So this issue of student-teacher ratios is not going to fix itself, and there needs to be proactive and thoughtful planning, which leads me to tonight's topic and the memo at hand. I noticed as part of the proposal that will be discussed later today that hiring a teacher was not listed in the options, and given the growth in Saco, I believe this should also be an option that was laid out. There's always a need for a teacher or support due to the growth of Saco that we have seen, retirement of a colleague, or even natural attrition. The role could also be potentially positioned as an elementary flex teacher where pending class sizes could move between K through 2 year over year. Obviously not during the school year. The other item that I wanted to address on today's proposal that I'm hoping the school board will ask questions and discuss further is this concept of multi-age classrooms. As I have learned, this has been done before in Saco and have received feedback from parents that were directly impacted. So my questions that I would like the school board to be asking and get answers to is what was the success criteria that was laid out for this option? Was it measured? What was the output the last time this was done? Was there any initiative to survey the teachers, parents, and students to truly understand the impact? Because I will say, the feedback that I received did not give me the warm and fuzzies. The Saco school system is built on a single grade classroom structure. So how can we implement this as a viable option and expect success when our structure is predicated on this single grade classroom? Now, focusing on the teachers in this dynamic, will there be training and support available for these teachers for this approach? Will they have the resources they need to be successful? Teachers that are put in this situation will continuously have to monitor and assess students to determine if they are in the appropriate group, and their eyes always have to be on every single student, assessing every single need. How can we, even with this ratio of 1 to 19, that's still a lot to ask for a teacher. And also, with combining grades, teachers are now expected not to do one lesson plan for one age, but 2. So that means they're going to have to do double the work. Are we going to be paying them more? Are we going to be supporting them more? How does that work? That's not fair for the teachers and ultimately not fair for our children and students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Aubrey Heller. I live at 4 Buckthorn Circle in Saco. I am parent to 4 kids, including triplets, who are currently in kindergarten at Young School. So the student-to-teacher ratio affects my family trifold this year. Yay! Our kindergartners will meet their new teacher and classmates on the last day of school. They will go all summer, getting used to the idea of that teacher, being excited about which classmates they will be in class with. Now my middle triplet can roll with the punches. Although he'll be upset if things change, he'll be fine. The other 2 are much more emotional and have anxiety that they have to work through when it comes to change like that. You indicated that we have the money in the budget to hire a 6th first grade teacher because of the cost savings in the healthcare. If you wait until over the summer, potentially towards the end of the summer, to hire that teacher, it would create totally unnecessary stress on our kids who like to plan for situations so they can be more comfortable. Also, when you hire in May and June, you get the better picks of the teachers instead of who is left at the end of the summer by September or August. I would like to think that that is a priority for the Saco School Board and Superintendent, hiring the best teachers we possibly can for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yeah. Please step forward. Just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Britt Sondriel McLaughlin, and my address is 63 Franklin Street in Saco. And I have a son in kindergarten right now, and we have been just so impressed with the level of support he's received at Young. He has an IEP, and so that's been really important to us, and we've been incredibly grateful. With him heading into first grade, we are concerned about hearing about higher numbers of students to teacher ratio with that going up. Considering his IEP and kind of echoing some of the things that Aubrey just said herself about her students or her children, and just managing anxiety and managing expectation, we echo those concerns, and we would be very, very grateful to have a teacher hired sooner rather than later, and keep those numbers down in the student-to-teacher ratio. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone wishing to be recognized. Moving on to item number 7, and that is the superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray?
All right, good evening, everybody. Several items tonight to talk about. First of all, we had on, forgetting all the meetings I've been to this week, Monday night was public hearing, first public hearing on the budget on the city council side, which went smooth. And we have second public hearing, is it next Monday night, Jody?
No, final is Monday night.
Final is Monday
Final
night. So final vote on Monday night for school budget, which will be the number that then goes to voters. We hope that within the next couple of days, we we'll have the new website up and running for information on school construction. It is a dedicated website that will have all the links to all of the information, videos, et cetera, so that when people want to learn more about question 2, they can just go to that link, and it will be a dedicated page and won't be clunked up with other information. And so that will be the next couple of days. Hopefully, everybody got an opportunity to view the video that we put out. I'd say that was Friday, correct, Meg? That when we posted that, that gives you the flyby of what both schools would look like. There'll be another version of that coming out with some voiceovers, but we wanted to get that out as quick as possible. A video like that takes about 40 hours of the computer just working to render that. And so to change, like, as we go through and say, hey, oh, we wish we could change this one little thing, that all goes back through that process. So there has to be a point where you say, this is great. And so hopefully people can see the outside of those new schools, of what they would look like. Inside structures, we estimate a video that would be that piece. We'll go through the design phase, and you're probably 6 to 9 months before you would see inside features in the next portion of that with a successful vote. We are working on the support staff contracts, 2 contracts that we are negotiating right now. One of the things that we've got to look at as a school committee is our meeting date for June 12th is a Wednesday night. We're going to need to change that because that is 8th grade promotion night. And based off our ability and all of the voting and high school graduations, and then we had a couple of snow days, that was a night that we were able to grab and use Thornton Academy for our celebration that night. So we'll need to discuss that piece. We have our family wild side night at Young School on Friday night. Hopefully the forecasts will be good for that event on the 17th. And then Fairfield Walkathon is the 17th. Our Burns School Community Night is on the 24th. Another piece that I just want to mention to you guys is that Saco Biddeford Rising, which is an event for our ML families, is happening on May 14th from 5 to 7 at Biddeford Middle School. And that's where we will get a lot of our community resources together for our ML families, interpreters, to help figure out how we can better serve and establish better lines of communication resources. And then finally, there was an article in the paper this weekend about the rising trends of homelessness that we are facing within our schools and within our communities. And this is something that we all really need to pay attention to. Because when we're talking about homelessness, we're not just talking about who we may see on the street. We're dealing with situations with families who have 2 young kids and another on their way and are being priced out of hotel rooms as the summer comes on. And we have limited funds that come to us through either donations or the state. And we are facing having to be out of those to help families. We're not necessarily designed as school departments to help with finding housing and clothes and all of those pieces. And I'm so impressed by what the staff does every single day to make sure that we are keeping kids safe. But we've got to really think about the needs that we have here in our community. One in 4 kids in poverty. Over 100 kids, K through 8, homeless. We got to start figuring this out as a group, because we get $311 per homeless student for state support, which we're grateful for. But once summer rates come in to hotels, that's like 3 nights. 3 nights. And so I urge us all to be advocates. York County Shelter, full. And state funding didn't get past the appropriations table today to fund shelters throughout the state. Those are the battles that we face each and every day, on top of everything else, of building schools and doing other things. And our staff, I'm so proud of them this week to make sure that we were able to extend a week of a family who was going to be gone with a mom who has 2 and 1 on the way. But that funding runs out. And while I should have mentioned this first, after just talking about homelessness, and I apologize, it should have been my lead off, not the end, because it's hard to come back from when you talk about some of those other pieces, is just making sure you reach out to staff this week, Staff Appreciation Week, from our bus drivers to our cooks to our teachers to our support staff. Say thank you. Tough job. If you have I always reach out a couple of times a year to a couple of former educators I think made a difference for me. And I think those are the most meaningful conversations, is the one teacher that you can reach out from 20 years ago that turned things around. Send a nice note. Pop in on Facebook, say hello. But remember the staff that's in our building, because we're thankful for what they do.
Thank you. Okay, that now takes us to item 8, and that is the chair's report. School Board Member Chair Preble, School Board Chair Preble, do you have an update?
I don't have anything major. It's kind of hard to follow up after that, Jeremy. So I want to say thank you to staff and everything that you guys do every day, administrators too, the principals, God bless you guys all too. But all staff, bus drivers, all of them, they're dealing with a lot this week, I feel like, with changes in traffic and everything too, all of that. So that would be my only thing. I don't have anything else major to report, but thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 9, there is no staff reports this evening. Item 10 is the board subcommittee minutes. Item A is the Policy and Personnel Committee agenda. Next meeting is 6/12/24 at 5:30. Item B is the Finance and Infrastructure Committee agenda meeting. The next meeting is 5/22/24 at 4:30. And the Curriculum Committee agenda, the next meeting is 6/3/24 at 4:30.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just a quick clarification on the June 12th policy meeting. Will we move that as well? I'm looking at
Policy
Meg.
and Personnel Committee.
Meg, is that something we'll move? Okay, great.
So that will carry to whatever night the school board is changed. Okay, item 11, there is no old business this evening. Item 12 is new business. Item A is new hires. There is a memo in your packet, and is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
School Board Member Truman?
I move we approve the stipend nomination of Matt Thabarge, sorry if I butchered that, summer school coordinator, and issue a stipend contract.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Archie. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, that now takes us to item B, and that is resignations. There is also a memo in your packet this evening. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
School Board Member Truman?
I move we accept the resignation of Jason DiDonato, Finance Director, effective June 30th, 2024. Gary Konevsky, Maintenance Director, effective June 30th, 2024. And Hallie Hawks, SMS School Counselor, effective at the end of the 2023-24 school year.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second? School Board Member Johnston?
Second.
Any discussion? School Board Member Roach, then School Board Member Johnston.
Yes, for staff appreciation and the resignations, I'd like to give my own personal thanks to Jason. We've had a lot of ups and downs over the years, but I'll never doubt how hard he worked to get information to boards and superintendents and staff to try to make things move forward. So just a public thank you to him.
School Board Member Johnston.
Well, I want to concur with School Board Member Roach. I think I've worked with Jason Donato for longer than anybody else here. And I am regretful to see him go, but I understand he's got reasons for doing that, as we all do when we make changes in our lives. But I have immense respect for him, appreciate all that he's done for the Saco School Department. Before that, RSU 23. I think he's extremely hardworking and industrious and does deliver the information. So I really want to thank him and say that I regret the fact he's going, but I appreciate what he's done. Thank you.
Thank you. School Board Member Truman.
I just want to say thanks to Mike Garrity for continuing to hang out with us despite his retirement. So thanks.
Anyone else?
Wait a minute, I didn't see Mike. I didn't see Mike over there. He's hiding. So, hi, Mike. We'll catch up.
Okay, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, item number C is a budget update and discussion.
I kind of hit that with the superintendent's report that we'll have our second reading on Monday night.
Okay, item D is the school construction update. 2 items to go over this evening. 1 is the guide to the new school construction information, and 2 is the exterior building video.
Yeah, we had hoped to be able to, at this point, and we're just not quite ready, we had hoped to be able to put a new link there prior to the meeting of the website that will be going out, which will be info on 2. And we expect Meg, we're hoping by Friday, we're really close, just it was more about proofreading and editing and making sure that everything's there, which will be a direct link for us to be able to share that where people can just go to one section, get all the information, all the documents, and put that out about the new school. And then the other piece was just more to continue to push out into the public the exterior building video that you can click through and walk. You have about 4.5 minutes that starts with coming in one entrance and returning to that entrance. It gives you the view of playgrounds. It gives you a look at what entering the elementary school versus entering the primary school will look like. I would say that right now, the middle, you see a lot of grass, and I suspect that through design, that between both buildings will not be able to be grass like that because that will just be total mud for a lot of parts of the year and impact our crew. So there'll be some changes in that design. It gives you a good opportunity to see the outdoor eating spaces that we would have at the 1 through 5 school. And then really the wraparound on both buildings where you can see the upper parking lot and then the playgrounds of where they would be. Those aren't obviously exactly what the playgrounds will look like, but it gives you an idea of the space in between. We're really, I think one of the pieces that we continue to work on is just making sure that you're going to have 2 different playgrounds to meet the needs of different size of kiddos. And unless you're a parent of 3 of one age, a lot of times you've got kiddos who are at different levels sitting on one playground and one will be on the other. And I think we're a little bit light on shaded space somewhere in the middle. And that will be something that we'll continue to work on and see what that looks like. And so hopefully people will get to see the design. I believe early voting is already open. Is that correct, Jody? Or
No, because.
It's after the.
Yeah.
And so early voting will be available in a couple of weeks, and
Yeah,
we'll
I don't
have.
believe the ballot has been approved yet. Michelle's working on that once everything's finalized.
And then we will have a whole lot more information and other pieces that will be coming out throughout the month on that piece. You did probably see a slide or information that came out, whether that was on the news story or the others, but we were able to calculate what the cost would be for the medium residential home in Saco, and that median home value. And remember, not necessarily, sometimes you think about sale value, but what's actually on the corner of your tax bill is what the town values it at. And if you're at $412,000 of land and house value combined, you'd be looking at $284 of an increase in taxes with a proposal for these schools. If that number, if you were like one of the communities that we talked about, if you were looking at a Scarborough or a Cape or one of the others who was doing that all by themselves with no state funding, without state funding on this project, you'd be looking at well over $1,100 on a tax bill. So 284 versus 1,100 is a big difference, and it will definitely be a situation of the community making their decision, expressing that piece, because all of my kids have gone through young school now, and they're out, and that was 20 years ago, and we were able to start locating some pictures of that piece, and so we have this opportunity at our doorstep, and we have to solve this problem long term. And everybody who's been involved over the last 20 years, I think that's why Mike keeps hanging around, because he's going to be part of it, is that, there's just been so much put into it, and we have a solution. And so hopefully we can continue to provide quality information, and if people have certain things that they question about, that's, there's a way to contact us through this one, we'll have that contact so that we can get that information up there.
And just to follow up, I did just double check on the city site. The absentee ballot applications are available. So you can apply for your absentee ballot with the state or the city. And the regular ballot and the sample ballot will be available 30 days before the election. And at that point, the in-person voting here at City Hall would take place. School Board Member Archie?
Just to clarify, has the city decided if that's going to be question 2?
Yes, it is question 2.
Okay, and question 1 is the budget? Is that right?
Will be the regular budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. And with those updates for the construction, I would like to throw out, for anybody that knows, or if you don't know, on Tuesday nights from 4:30 to 7, I hold open office hours right in my office outside of Chambers. This Tuesday from 5:30 to 7, I am going to dedicate to the school construction. So any residents or parents that have any questions or concerns, please feel free to stop by. If we have a lot of people at one time, we can do it as an open session, or we can do it one-on-one. And I have put an offer out to the school board, anybody that would like to join me, so hopefully we'll have a school board present as well. So yeah, this Tuesday, I would like to dedicate specifically to the construction update and the referendum. And that's the 14th. Okay, any discussion or comment on School Board Member Roach?
Yeah, I just want to put some, well, first a question, Jeremy. On the video part, there's going to be voiceover, right?
Correct.
That's what you're trying to get on there. Will there be any numbers put on the video part? Like this building costs this building costs that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we get some people out there that think that, what goes on at school board stays at school board, but we are on video, and council's on video, And we have talked about this wide open, but the numbers do get a little confusing. So I just want to take just a quick moment just to remind viewers or what have you that the state part, the 1 through 5, that is a $7 million local contribution. So that is an all state money. And then the rest, the pre-K through K is 32 million, not 39, it's 32. And if we do nothing, first off, we pay $7 million over 20 years to the pre-K building if we did nothing. $350,000 a year for 20 years. We did nothing. And if we did want to combine pre-K into one of the schools, I can bet you that over 20 years, it's going to cost at least 32 million. Okay? So the staff, talk about staff appreciation, they do wonders in the buildings we have now. Those buildings, I don't know what people remember from 20, 30 years ago. No offense, these buildings are a disgrace, okay? Our kids deserve better, staff deserves better, this city deserves better. So let's get to 2024 now and get to reality and spread the word that this is money well spent. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? School Board Member Gale?
Just a quick thank you for hosting the office hours for that. I mean, I think it's critical that we get council and you, Mayor, involved in it, and you're taking the lead, and really thank you for that.
Okay, moving on to item E, and that is the school committee calendar for 2024-2025.
Just trying to get those dates out as early as I can for everybody on the calendar. Pretty much the same setup as beforehand.
Do you need approval?
We don't necessarily need approval. We just will send calendar invites unless there's a change by the board. But just trying to get those dates out there as early as possible so we can get that posted and everybody can look at it on your calendar beforehand. We try to keep things as consistent as possible. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a school vacation week throws a little bit of a wrench into things, or a holiday. But I think this year it worked out, other than looking at the way our Thanksgiving is placed this year. It's and then our winter break, it's fairly consistent.
I appreciate the heads up for the calendar. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? School Board Member Gale?
Just a comment that I bring up every year that this comes up. I really feel strongly about this 5 p.m. start time on these dates. I don't think it's in the best interest of our school department, of our school board. And I'll just bring up again, is there any way that we can move those to even 5:30 or 6? I know there's a lot of different opinions, but again, my opinion is that the 5 p.m. start time isn't conducive to public comment, to get a lot of folks engaged personally and coming to these meetings. So again, I throw that out there. I do it every year, but I feel really strongly about this and hope that we can find an alternative time to that 5 p.m. start time.
As we've discussed this before, I'll just echo what I've said in the past, is that not everybody works a 9-to-5 job, and sometimes 5 o'clock is better. Artie is a good representative of not working a 9-to-5 and likes to be out of here as soon as possible. So I think that, all things considered, I think this actually gives more opportunity for people to come. Say 7 o'clock doesn't work for them. Maybe 5 is better. So I'm happy with the way it is.
Anyone else? School Board Member Roach?
I haven't been part of the prior time debates, but on the 5:30 idea, though, just throwing it out there, if we have a known, are we able to be flexible between 5 or 5:30, meaning that if you have a known agenda that probably won't take more than an hour of debate, that we would have those meetings maybe at 5:30. And then if you had, like, Jeremy, your situation, if you had to get going, maybe at that point, later in the meeting, we don't need necessarily to have you here, I guess. I don't know.
I think it sometimes is hard to anticipate what will draw
Yeah.
debate and what won't. I mean, over 12 years of running, or being, there are nights where I thought, ooh, we're gonna be here a long time, and then I look at the clock and it's like 30 minutes later and you're gone. And then any time that I've thought, oh, this is gonna be a 20-minute meeting, it's like 2.5 hours later. It's like, Murphy's Law on some of those things. And so I think you can try to structure agendas, and I do try to structure them that way. Where, like, when we're having big budget discussions, I always like to have that be the 7 o'clock meeting. Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, it's hard to predict. So it's, if 7:15 helps people out a little bit, I'm not, like, worked up about that piece, obviously, it's your meeting. But, I do think that there are many boards meet at many different times. And I don't know how just having kids myself, if I wasn't in the seat, I don't know how I would get to meetings at 7 or 5. Because I run home and at 5 o'clock, it feels like it's dinner and 18 hours of youth sports or some event. And at 7 o'clock, it's bedtimes, bath times, and some nights that's when dinner's starting. So I don't know that life is like it used to be, and I think it's just tough for everybody.
School Board Member Johnston?
I would just like to concur with Superintendent Ray that it is very unpredictable how long meetings take. So again, I have also had the experience where I thought it was going to be short and it was long, and I thought it was going to be long and it was short. So I think we can't really count on the amount of time, as much as we might want to, we cannot really count on the amount of time that a meeting is going to take. And I have to say that I agree with Sarah that I think the schedule that we're on now has been working for the most part. I mean, not everything works for anybody or everybody, and we all do, a lot of us do not work in the same time frame. So I would agree that we should keep things as they are, but thank you. And I appreciate, Will, for your contribution anyway.
I guess just on a clarity, so we don't need to vote on this to adopt it, or what?
We actually do, yeah.
You vote on a
every-
meeting
yeah,
calendar? or-
every-
I mean, so you-
Traditionally, we do it by the quarter.
Yep.
And I do 3 months' worth of dates, not times, because our time is always set, but the dates. And then we do pass a consent item.
So I'm certainly willing to you're certainly willing to approve it.
Okay, I'm happy to make a motion. I move we approve the school committee calendar for the 2024-25 school year, or calendar year.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Preble. Any additional discussion? School Board Member Gill?
Can I move to make an amendment to that to change the meeting time to 5:30 PM on the 5 PM dates?
Okay, an amendment has been made by School Board Member Gale. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by School Board Member Archie. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote on the amendment only. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
I'm going to vote no on that one.
School Board Member Roach?
No, and I'll be back, but no.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
No.
School Board Member Johnston.
No,
I'm sorry? School Board Member Johnston, what was that?
sorry, no.
Okay. Motion fails 3-4. I'm sorry. 5-2.
4-2.
4-2. Didn't have a motion already, no. Okay, so back to the main motion on the existing calendar as it is. Any additional discussion?
Question and maybe an amendment. Do we have the flexibility with enough public notice to change a meeting from 5 o'clock to 5:30? Understanding it's unpredictable, but if,
Yes, the board has the right to change a meeting time. You would have to match your posting requirements set forth.
assuming the posting requirements, yeah.
Assuming your posting requirements, I don't think that allows for people to plan. But yes, I mean, I think that one of the conversations that you could have would just be looking at, you know, is this exactly the agenda format that you want to have? There are many different agenda formats out there too, that you could look at for setup of a meeting that might allow for some savings or some added pieces. Yes, you can do it. I think that for public notice sake, I'd rather us not say 5 o'clock this night, 5:15 the next, or 5:30. I think the other piece is that, like, for some of these meetings, you're also planning your committee meetings beforehand, and so that would be the other piece.
Okay, if that flexibility's there, I won't make an amendment on that. I will say that, on one hand, if an issue is important enough to you and to the public, we had to do this for another group I'm part of. We had to do this for the county, that the issue was important enough. We got there at 4 o'clock. We got there and made our case, and yeah, we sacrificed work time and other time, but on the other hand, you know, you want as many eyeballs. This is the schools. You do want as many eyeballs on these meetings as you can, and be flexible. And us as board members too. I mean, you know, maybe I share a similar schedule with some of the people here, but yeah, as long as we can just have, you're posting it, you're letting everyone know, but we can also be flexible under those posting rules. I'm okay with it.
Hey, anyone else? School Board Member Archie?
This will probably be a no for me again. I am a firm believer in we should do 2 meetings at 6 o'clock. I've always said that. And I think that to make it fair to Jeremy, Meg, what was it, 2 meetings ago she did a very good job at it. So I don't know if there was a way you guys could alternate between the two of you. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I work at 2 o'clock in the morning, so like really the 5 o'clock meeting works better for me. And staying here till 11 o'clock at night at a 7 o'clock meeting doesn't really work for me that well. But I think to make it easier on the community and having the same amount, the same time frame for every meeting, it seems to make more sense. So I'll reiterate everything that I've said the last 3 years, 6 o'clock, every meeting.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. Back to the main motion only. School Board Member Archie?
No?
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
No?
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Main motion passes 4-2. Okay, that takes us to item F, and that is the class size update and historical data.
Okay, so obviously class size has been a topic of discussion And I wanted to put some historical data together for everybody, just to look at what historically class sizes have been in grade 1 over the last, so we got like 12 years there. And as you can see, in different scenarios, they fluctuate. Obviously, class sizes over time have peaks and valleys and differences throughout them, and this is not uncommon for any school department and/or district to go through these things, and you'll continue to have peaks and valleys. We also listed a lot of possible options, and no, there may not have been hiring a teacher on that list, but as I said last meeting, if the data suggests that, we're not going to go into the next school year at 22, but there's also been a lot of things that can change. Knowing right now that we don't have firm numbers for kindergarten enrollment, that's a challenge. We don't have numbers for what Fairfield's a little low right now. And so that gives us an opportunity. We have looked through our superintendent's agreements, and those numbers are, we won't have superintendent's agreements at Young School for grade 1. That will be something that we'll have to limit, because you get some ask from time to time. We also have several students that are in a highly mobile situation that we have to monitor their enrollments and what's going to happen. And then, we also have to think about equity, too, and what the release valve is on either of these. School committee adopted, finally, we have a policy now on class size that we didn't have. And we're very fortunate in Saco for our class sizes compared to some of our neighboring communities that are 23, 24 in some of those lower grades. We're very lucky to have that. The other piece that I want to, have people be thoughtful about, and the reason why some of these things that you do wait a little bit of a time is I actually had an experience here in Saco myself as a parent, where a couple of years ago the decision was not made, and then there was actually contraction in a grade level after school year started. At Young School, a few years ago, midway through September, they actually pulled a teacher out of kindergarten, I believe it was, because I was a recipient of getting a new teacher in my son's classroom midway through September, because class size shifted at that point. And so we need to let the opportunity to get a better handle on what our kindergarten sizes will be, because our open houses aren't until 31st, correct? The 31st is our open house for step up for kindergarten. Parents. Our numbers are a little bit low. I would hate to see a situation where they continue to be low, and then there was like a situation where now we're reacting and there's actually contraction. That's not a good thing. We have the ability that we can ask families, and several families ask from year to year, hey, can I go to school over here, or can I go to school over here? Based off childcare needs, a lot of it. And if you're a parent who now maybe didn't know this was a possibility, and you have an older child that is transitioning to Burns, that may make a lot of sense if you're a driver or whatnot. Say, hey, I'm willing to go over here, and we would want to guarantee any family who took that option a continuation in that school. And I think that we also have to look at one of the things that's really important to us as we look through this list is equity. And I think that we need to ask those questions and be prepared as a board that if we do this at Young School, that we are fully prepared if anything changes at Fairfield School. And Fairfield School is a school that has over 40% of its students free and reduced lunch, more poverty, and as we look at the historical class sizes, it's the school that had higher class sizes. So if we really want to talk about class sizes, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and make sure that we are making sure that our most disadvantaged kids have the same opportunities. I can tell you right now as parents, we're not going to have 22. We're not having 22. But we need to go through a couple of these other things first before we get to that point. And I understand wanting to plan and do the other things, but let me tell you, the experience of contraction midway, that was not good. That was an unfortunate situation. And if we're going to make that here, we just need to make sure that we're willing to make that in all situations throughout the year on a consistent basis. One of the things I would say long-term, I'm a little bit worried about, and I had this conversation with Kevin the other day, and we do recognize that there is some shifting demographically and in building around the city. We know we're going to get more in North Saco going that way. What concerns me more than anything is that if you look at home sales on the Fairfield side of town right now, and the price for a single-family home, I don't know, when one's for sale, how many of those are going to have kids coming back into it. And so we are going to have to be, I don't remember a conversation, and certainly if someone's been here a little bit longer than I have, but even when both of my kids were at young school, I never saw anything about a redraw of the lines of, where it's at. And Beth, I don't know if that's ever been.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Nothing, to my knowledge, has been redrawn as such in terms of a line for, I can't even remember how long, when my kids first started into school, and they're well over, Nathan, he's
Right.
on council now. So I don't recall the line ever really being dealt with in all those years. It's a long time ago.
And of course, again, you're not going to redraw a line and say, oh, by the way, family that has a first grader and a second grader, I'm sorry that you're not going to do those types of things. You're going to look at it wisely. You're going to look at it in balanced class size. You're going to look at equity for all children. You're going to look at the transient piece of our new neighbors that come in where there are some kiddos and families that I believe we have there's time on that piece. And then I think we can put some of those options out there and make those well before the start of the school year. But I think that key date is starting to look at what happens on our family night for kindergarten, because right now, at Fairfield School, where we've got 47 pre-K and 21 enrollments, and we estimate somewhere around 80 kiddos, which would allow for some possible switching. To address the multi-age piece, multi-age was done at Fairfield School for years, whereas a looping model was done at Young School. And so there was really no consistency in what our model was. Like, what did you value as a district? You had one model in one school that happened to be there and one in another school. And I think that there can be benefits to both of those done really, really well. I would say that, again, every parent is going to make their own choice. But I've seen situations, because I also have the privilege of working in Dayton, where sometimes they've had some of that mixed grade levels, because in a very small community, you might have a class of 12 and a class of 25, and they've done some of that, and that can work really well for some families. I tend to actually think that one of the challenges that we have with our educational system is that it seems like you just get to know a kid for a year, and then you're off to the next piece. I would love to see more teachers in larger groups working with a smaller group of kids historically and get to know them. But that may not be in our future right now. And then again, if we all go out and vote and think about what could to come, this problem goes away for us in the long term, because you'll have those abilities to have some flexibility, mix kids up. But whatever we do in this situation, we need to be prepared to do in any of the situations across the district. And again, sometimes fairness is this, but equity is another thing. And we need to make sure that our most disadvantaged learners have the same class sizes across the district if we make this one. And so I'll answer any questions from the board.
School Board Member Archie?
I have a couple, I'm sorry. So, do we have any idea on how many of these students are the new neighbors? Meg,
Yes, we do.
can I ask what the number is?
I'd rather not single out the students, but it's under 10.
Okay, because my only thought is that it is temporary housing and eventually there will be movement around. That's my thought. So the other aspect of this is, what if it is a bubble? Like, if hypothetically we hired another teacher at Young and we put them in first grade, what happens when all those 111 kids go to second grade? Are we proposing that the teacher just moves with them, or, like, to me, that doesn't seem realistic.
Well, I think that's, again, you'll have fluctuation from year to year. You think about kids who access the classroom on a regular basis versus some that don't. You'll have move-ins, you'll have move-outs, you'll have kids that go here and go there. I think the first piece is just seeing, is there any interest from families who may want to have, for daycare purposes, or that didn't say, hey, I didn't know that was an option. If we saw continued declining enrollment, like if we really believe that home prices in certain parts of town might box out some families, and that we're hoping that this is only a 3-year challenge that we continue to face, there may have to be a conversation at some point about redrawing lines, because at the same time, if you had continued declining enrollment, there's only so many classrooms that you'll have at Young School over the next couple of years. We have a pre-K lease that is expiring that we have to deal with. And so there may be some pieces where you say, hey, you got to shift something a little bit in order to make this happen. And then we're going to get into this funny place where, hopefully in 2 years, you're starting to see a structure of a building, and then after that, you're saying, oh, we're all going to be together anyway. You may have some more families that want to do that piece.
Can we put a time frame on that?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I don't want to wait till the last minute. Like, yes, it would be great if we could convince 11 families to let their children go over to Fairfield, but I don't want to wait until Labor Day to decide.
No, I think you're making this decision in July, early July, and
Okay.
You give people some time, you'll get some conversations that we will have with certain organizations about what they expect to have happen. You'll start to have conversations with people, Wendy, just going back is, once end of June around, it's not a huge enrollment that you're going to get over the summertime. It's not going to be tons, 20-ish over the summertime. So, once we know what we have on May 31st, and then you're saying 20 is about the number that historically has happened, you're going to have a pretty good idea. And you start to think about those pieces. I think the other piece about approaching families first, of having that happen, is that, if they make that choice and you can even things that way, then you're not having a conversation with a staff member that may want to not want to move from one school to the other because they've established relationships. So I think there are some pieces that you put together on this and see where we're at, and I suspect that if we send something, you know, tomorrow to parents, I don't think that's gonna be a long decision for people. You know, I know that if I got that email and I was a family, I probably could make that decision like without even closing the screen. And so, you know, maybe you come back a week later and you say, hey, you've already got 10. It's a big difference.
School Board Member Truman, then School Board Member Johnston.
I just wanted to speak on the multi-age piece because my current second grader was in a multi-age class last year, but then we axed all those optional, like between the looping and the multi-age. And I know there were some questions from the public about like, is that effective? It works when you have 2 classrooms that are multi-age, and then kids would go, the second grade kids would go to one teacher, and the first grade kids would go back to the other teacher, and they would do first and second grade stuff with that teacher, and then go back to their classrooms when it came to math. And I think it was a phenomenal experience for my second grader, and he was actually disappointed when we got rid of the multi-age because he was very excited to be the older student this year, and he doesn't have anybody to reign over this year. So, and he loves to see his third grade friend. They're now in third grade, and he loves to see them, and they have some days, and they've come over. There was a whole slew of them last week in Darcy's class, but so like, I think that, you know, I know there were some concerns with that, but I think it was a very positive experience for my family with that multi-age piece. So he liked having older friends, and he was really looking forward to being like that mentor kind of older classmate. So just in that aspect, I wanted to speak on that, just that it's not that scary as it sounds. It was actually a very positive experience. And then as far as like, there's so many kids that are moving in and out of the districts. My now 4th grader, I just had a friend that left like last week. He moved to another school district, and you know, as timing could have been better. I mean, you move when an apartment or whatever becomes available. In his family's case, they moved to a different school. So like, so many things are going to change between now and I'd say even September. There's going to be changes where people are enrolling the first month or, you know, 6 weeks of school. So things are, I mean, the school year changes. I mean, we do October numbers and April numbers. Or is it March? It is April. I was like, am I making this up? You know, the numbers are constantly fluctuating. So, I mean, it could be anything come the first day of school. So that's all I have to say.
School Board Member Johnston.
Couple of things. One, I also had a child, my youngest child, who was in a multi-age classroom at 1-2. Worked out really well, I think. Teacher was great. And there were quite a number of kids in that classroom. I don't know at this point how many, but probably more than we would normally have now. I think the kids tended to help each other, and essentially it was a good experience. 3rd and 4th grade, I think I'm right, it's a long time ago, he was in a looping classroom, so he had the same, I might be wrong with the terminology because it's been a long time, but he also had the experience of being in a classroom where he went from one grade to the next grade with the same teacher in the same classroom, and it was another really good experience. So I don't have, personally from my own experience with this one child, I don't have any fear about that type of situation, and I do believe that it's manageable and probably positive for the kids in a lot of different ways. Yes, I was looking at the historical data that Superintendent Ray has supplied us with, and honestly, it does. It fluctuates from, I don't know, I did a little bit of math here, and I'm not very good at that, but I think that, you know, the difference in Fairfield and young in terms of class size for this grade level over time has sometimes been very close, and sometimes it's varied from like 24 kids to what we are now looking at potentially next year of 23 kids. And we can't really control that, but I do wonder, one of the things I think we should get this figured out before the kids actually go into the classroom, and I know that a lot of kids are looking forward now or soon to where they're going to be, who their teacher is going to be, and that's difficult. But I would think that we might consider pulling a staff member from one school to the other to maybe, rather than to hire a new staff member, potentially. I know that's occurred over time occasionally. Don't know that that's the answer. Just throwing it out. And Superintendent Ray, if we were to find some parents who would like their children to shift to another school, what does that do with our busing situation? Do we offer them busing still? Does that complicate? How would that work?
So there would be a lot of factors to consider. One would be closeness to the boundary line, would be number one. We already are busing some kids across town anyway, so that would be part of it. We would be looking at who drives their kid to school, because we know we have a large population of families that drive their kids to school. We probably would also be looking at the aftercare situation, because someone may say, hey, I'll do that because I'll just drive my kid to school in the morning. That's something that I typically do. And I go to Saco Parks and Recs in the afternoon, which we already transport to. So I think that there would be a lot of different considerations that would have to, be asked in that piece. Like, if you're yes, I'm interested in exploring this more, are you also, clicking the box that said, and I would need transportation? Because obviously that would be a consideration. So you've got to ask more than one or two. It's not just a yes or no. There would be some other pieces. Where's your aftercare? What are some of those plans that people would have to give us some information so that you could think about what options you would be able to present to families.
School Board Member Gale, and then Truman.
I just also had one more comment that I know, was it last year? Was it the third grade? We ended up having to hire several teachers in that grade. So a lot of kids at the end of the school year had no idea who their teacher was going to be. Like, there was just no way, because we had retirements or someone was just leaving the district. So that is a possibility for any student, first grade or sixth grade. You just may never know. We had 3, right? It was 3 that year. And so there was, some of my friends' kids didn't know who their teacher was going to be. And I assured them we got some great people. So there's so many different factors that are going to go into that, so.
School Board Member Gale.
Just a couple of questions that I had. So just to be crystal clear, going into the next school year, first grade will not have 20, the average size will not be 22, correct?
That will not be my recommendation to you guys.
Okay. And then looking at the memo, just a historical question. It looked like in 2021, the school board made a decision to hire a teacher that we had roughly the same thing that was happening here. We went in 1920 from 84, and then 2021, the number of students went to 114, so we made a decision, I guess, to hire a teacher then, and then in 21, 22, we went back down to 5. And I realize that you weren't the superintendent then, but I guess there is some precedent in the past for this. In your experience, kind of what are the challenges then of doing that? Is it a budget or a classroom issue? Like, what?
So in 2021, during that year, You were also doing some hiring using federal funds that came with COVID relief. And you were also looking at, you had to make class sizes that were half as piece. So that's where your hiring came from in that year. And I think there's probably some other examples throughout the district where there was doing that piece. You know, one of the pieces that you're gonna run into with this group of kiddos at some point in time, if there's continued growth and there isn't a disparity on the side, is that a couple of years they're gonna be over at Burns School, and we don't necessarily have a room there at all in that building. So that's one challenge. I mean, again, I've had an experience over time where, you know, some years you have 10 teachers in a grade level, you know, and I'm talking the entire span, and then the next year you have 8 in that grade level, because while we don't tend to have that here in Saco, I have seen some situations, you know, like I was saying, Dayton. In Dayton, it seems like there's this every other year thing where there's 25 kids and then there's 12. And then there's 25 again, and then there's 12. And in that tiny, small community, you know, you can then say, oh, well, that's a family of 2, and their kids are close enough apart, and you see that develop. You'll see some up and down trends where you'll get a wild number for a year for one reason or not, and then you won't. When you look at a couple of years ago, well, you had a spike, and I think it's like second graders right now that's a high class, because families who were sending their kids to kindergarten the year when we were returning from COVID, there was huge numbers of families that said, you know what, I'm not going to have my kindergarten year be the every other day thing. I'm just going to hold out for a year. And then you tend to see all around the state that grade level of that class size just be kind of inflated, with the year prior to that severely depressed in numbers because, you know, 20% of the families held kids home. So you have those fluctuations over time. You know, I think that overall, when you look at Saco School Department numbers, and I'm talking pre-K through 8, our numbers have not significantly increased since, like 3 or 4 years ago, even prior to COVID. And remember, we have 100 almost kids living in a hotel room. If that wasn't there, we'd be 100 short. And so when we talk about, you know, we see housing and those things come up, the state of Maine, just historically, there's really nobody that's growing. And so that's one of the factors, and half of that is because, you know, we're not, generationally, there's not families that have huge number of kids like when we grew up, and, you know, 3 to 4 were common, and that's not that way anymore. So, no, we're not going in with 22. I think we run through these options. We'll have, you know, some better data, probably even at our June meeting. And then we can make a really good decision about what's happening, because, you know, again, it wasn't more than a couple of years ago in June when I was saying, hey, I'm getting hints about this hotel that came online, and we made some decisions that year. And that was a year that we did hire a teacher, because I said to Jeff, we're just going to hire one, and we didn't even know exactly where it was going to be, because Meg and I we'd get like a spreadsheet every day that would have something different on it. And I think that worked out pretty good for that situation.
So just following up on that timeline, so when do we think that we're going to be able to get the information? It sounded like there was the family night.
Yeah, I think we'll know a lot before that June meeting, whenever we schedule that, because we do have to move that from promotion, and we may move that forward or back based off schedule to pull everybody together. But we'll have that information. We can put out a thing for volunteers. You know, I wouldn't, when we talk about asking for volunteers, I wouldn't recommend that we send that out on Friday, because that will get buried in the weekend email. That would be like one of the Monday morning things that we would send out to families, so it was fresh on everybody's mind. And then see what the results of something like that is before we start making a next step decision.
And then just lastly, so the goal is to get the class size down to 20, right? Because that's what's in our policy is the
Correct.
high end of the.
Correct.
Okay. And so the goal is 20, not, I mean, I think the range was saying it was between
16 to
20.
18 with 20.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? School Board Member Roach?
So, again, you're saying, Jeremy, that, I'm not saying guaranteed, but you are telling us that by July 1st, you'll have this, you're targeting this to be resolved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the fair thing to do, and again, I think we will know so much more after registration night and have better information to make a quality decision of what direction the board wants to go on something like that. I do, what I will say to you is whatever decision we make in this case, we need to hold true in other situations that could arise over the summertime, and make sure that, there's an equity of programming for all kids. And, there are situations where you will just, I suspect that in, 2022, 23, which was just a couple of years ago, when we had 20.8 kids at Fairfield School, so you had some 21s there and you had some 20s, that was a, some kids moved in over that summer, and that's what we did that year. And then, 18, 19, you had 20.8 kids at Fairfield School, and so these were October numbers. So we pulled October 1 numbers because that's everything that's reported out on. And, in 2016, 2017, I don't know the board composition at that point, but whatever the conversations were that year, you had 21.6 at Fairfield when Young School was at 17.8. I don't know what the conversations were about redrawing lines or asking people to move over, but I just want to make sure that we have a situation where, a school that has higher free and reduced lunch situation is treated exactly the same, and we have those same conversations. So Kevin, we'll have a decision before July 1.
It'll be a combo of, 11 kids in kindergarten, that'd be the extreme. Existing 11 kids in kindergarten going from young to first grade at Fairfield. That's if there's no movings, which is unrealistic, people moving in and out of Saco. Just a geography question, North Saco, Cascade, where do those kids go right now? They go to Fairfield or Young?
I don't think we have many out there at that point.
That's.
Kevin, I'd have to look. I don't know
Okay,
that off the top of my head.
I'm just saying like a certain area, not necessarily redrawing the line, but.
Out at Cascade and Blue Haven, I know goes to Fairfield.
Goes to Fairfield, so.
I think on that side of Route 1, you're Fairfield, and if you were Jenkins, heading up towards Jenkins Road.
I guess that's a hard draw of a line, but I would say that, maybe if there's someone moving or going to there, that they would definitely go to Fairfield. I don't know if the other side of Route 1, if they're going to Young, go to Fairfield. What's the difference, right? It's Route 1, so you have to try the same road. So, all right, well, not to say, I mean, Principal Mears is doing a great job at Young. Everyone wants to go to Young. But you would think that maybe there's some kids, maybe playmates in rec center that maybe say, yeah, I'd like to be with friends at Fairfield. I don't know. I trust that you guys can work that out and figure it out. One comment on the shared grades thing. I didn't know if that was done because of balancing classroom sizes, but that goes way back to my time back in 06 and 07 at Fairfield. And now at that time, a lot of people wanted to get out of Young because that was a couple years after the new trails were brought in. But yeah, my my daughter had she reported to me she had a great experience back then. Yeah, she was maybe a smart aleck and wanted to be smarter than the second graders in first grade, but so it sounds like her dad maybe. But it's been a while. Like that was a while. I'd like to hear maybe in another meeting, another session, what the issues were to stop it last year. But I remember the teacher too. And she's still here. So it worked out at least well for our family. And that was now getting up there in years. So thanks.
Anyone else? School Board Member Pribble?
I was just hoping if we could add this to, when we get closer to June, add that to the agenda, just so we can allow the public to have an update. That'd be great. Thank you.
School Board Member Gale?
And then I guess just one other item for consideration as we move in there as an alternative is, can we include what the impacts would be for hiring a new teacher on there? Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, that takes us to item G, and that is the probation. School Board Member Johnston, sorry.
Just a quick end of this conversation, I guess. I am looking forward to the time when there isn't a line, and when we actually have a new school where all the kids have, hopefully, at least through the building and then the staffing, the same opportunities. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now that takes us to item G, and that is probationary teacher contracts. There is a memo in your packet. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Motion, yep.
I move we approve the nominations of the first-year teachers as listed on the memo and issue a 2-year probationary contracts for the 2024-2025 school year.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Johnston. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
And School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Madam Mayor? One more. I move we approve the nominations of the second-year teachers as listed on the memo and issue a continuing teacher's contract for the 2024-25 school year.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Gale. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, that now takes us to item A, and that is a second reading of the policies. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor?
We missed you last time, Beth.
I appreciate that. I'm sure Sarah took over with
She
that
did.
nomination, with that second reading or whatever, just fine. I don't get out of town much, but once in a while I do. I move we approve the second reading of policies IGA, curriculum development and adoption, ILD, student submission to surveys, analyses, or evaluations, JJIAA, private school students, access to public school curricular, interscholastic and extracurricular activities, JJE, fundraising in schools, JEA, compulsory attendance, JFAA, admission of resident students, JVF-E1, Title I Parent Involvement Policy. And that would be the end of this. Thank you.
Second.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion on the policies?
Quickly, I think you read the last one wrong, KBF-E1. I think you said JF. I don't know if I have to make a, yeah. You get excited with all your letters, so.
So to make sure that we have it accurate, KBF-E1 Title I Parent Involvement Policy, which is a very important policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on the policies? Any additional? Okay, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, there is no other information this evening. Item 14, we do have an executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Madam
So
Ma-
moved.
No, can't do that. I move we enter executive session for the discussion of compensation of employees pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056A, and for the discussion of labor contract negotiations of 1 MRSA subsection 4056D.
Second. I just wanted to hear you say it.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Archie. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to enter executive session passes 6-0 at 8:26.
We can do so moved for adjournment.
And executive session is down in the conference room? Okay, welcome back, everybody, and thank you. Is there a motion to exit executive session?
I move we exit executive session.
Second.
Motion made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Preble. Roll call vote, School Board Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to exit executive session at 9:26 passes 6-0. Is there a motion from executive session?
Yes. I move we approve the non-union salaries and the memorandum of agreement between the Saco School Board and the Saco Education Association, MEA-NEA.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Johnston. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnson? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, that now takes us to item 15, and that is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Who was that? Sorry, who made the motion? Okay, motion to adjourn by School Board Member Preble. Is there a second? Second by School Board Member Truman. Roll call vote, School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn at 9:27 passes 6-0. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.